We'll try to make it short as possible. Because like I feel like for the reviews, we should try to make it shorter in a way. But because we've I think sometimes we've actually gone a bit further than.
I think
But
that
again, that's
last one was
obviously.
like,
But
oh
that's
no, the
been
preview was about 50, wasn't it?
yeah, like last week's. I mean, actually, to be fair, last week's review was 39 minutes, but we've always hit 39 minutes somewhere around there. So if we can get it slightly less this week, then that would be better. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Cool. Everything's set. Six Nations. There's no sevens to talk about, which is great.
Ooh.
Nothing else to talk about. Okay, here we go. So you ready? Stretching away.
Broke your neck, mate.
Yeah. That was my shoulder. So I have like a little back. My back is aching, but I'll just deal with that as it goes. Okay, here we go. Hey guys, hope all is well. This is episode 40 of the Rugby Recap. You have myself, RugbyH, as well as the Kiwi lads. First of all, man, how was your weekend? Did you enjoy all the rugby?
Yeah, it was good. Close games across the board in the Six Nations, other than the last one, which kind of broke the trend, didn't it?
Yeah.
But Super Rugby was quite entertaining as well. We saw a round of underdogs, which I don't think many people predicted. We kind of didn't because we aren't the best at our predictions so far, but I had a good weekend overall. I'm still very sleep deprived, as you can tell, so I'm probably more energetic than I should be for a Monday afternoon. But did you enjoy the rugby, Tim? Big question.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the rugby a lot. I mean, again, we did start off the week with Super Rugby, and I covered a few of those games on my channel. But yeah, again with the Six Nations, some big upsets. We'll of course get straight into. But before we get into it, though, make sure guys to like the video. We greatly appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We're at 580 at the moment, so we're getting close towards that 600 mark. So let's achieve that if we can. And yeah, just comment below. Let us know, obviously, your thoughts on what happened throughout the kind of Six Nations as well as Super Rugby. Were you impressed by England beating Ireland? Were you impressed by Italy beating Scotland? And then, of course, that France Wales game we saw last night. Just let us know, obviously, in the comments below. But yeah, again, we'll start off with the Six Nations. Like I said, we'll go straight away with Italy versus Scotland. And yeah, this is definitely it's weird because I would normally say this is the shock result of the Six Nations, but actually we had two shock results. So I'm not sure which one you can classify as more of a shock in a way, because it's in two different aspects. Like it's a shock because England obviously beating Ireland, they're considered they were considered the best team in the world at that time by a lot of people.
What do you mean by word, Tim? Eh?
Well, England now have beaten them, so I don't know, that maybe puts it up in the air now. But
You're saying that England are the best team in the world now?
No, that's definitely not for sure. I'm just laughing because like everything, the pre-match, everything to this is like Ireland are the best team in the world. This is gonna be an easy win for them, and I was like, okay, I think it's gonna be much closer. But anyway, it's one of those like where when I look at this Italy Scotland game, however, I don't think anyone could have predicted this one. I think this is why I said this is one of the more. This is the one I thought was the bigger shock in a way, because I just thought Italy being Scotland. I mean, first of all, if you look at the stats wise in history, like this is the first time Italy have won, a game at the Six Nations since 2013. So this is a very big win for them. It's been 11 years since they've won at Italy. So yeah, it's a great feeling for the home fans. And yeah, they just did it in style. Like they really just performed really nicely. Like the tries they had in this game was really good. I thought for both sides, but particularly Italy's, I thought were really just well worked. Yeah, just kind of what was your thoughts on that game overall?
Well, I think Italy were very strategic in the way that they built into the game because they were taking those threes when they were available. A lot of people would have thought maybe they should have gone for the corner to try and get that extra scoreboard pressure, but Italy knew that to stay in this contest, they needed to be close. And that was what they were able to do. And actually having quite a hefty lead near the end of 9 points, putting the pressure back on Scotland, who, unfortunately, hindsight's a lovely thing. And if they had known what was going to happen in the game afterwards, I can tell you right now, I think a few of those Scottish boys would have been running just that little bit harder throughout that 80 minutes because the door is wide open. There are 4 sides now that can win the Six Nations. But the thing is, there's one side sitting in the box seat, and they were one of the sides that were defeated in the last round, that being Ireland. But Scotland will need a big performance next week. They didn't really have it up against the Italians, but then saying that, I think this Italian side this year in the Six Nations have been incredible compared to what we have seen in the past. You talked about the fact that they haven't had many wins. They could have had one last week or the week prior up against France. If they had just got one more thing right, they had a close game with England. That could have been another win for the. We could see. I know that this is way off and not right, but if Italy had won both of those games, do you realise that they could have been in like the top 2 of this year of the Six Nations? And like I said, that didn't happen. So we don't look at it that way. But like they actually could have been right up there in terms of overall rankings, and they still can. If they beat Wales next week, they will actually finish probably the highest they ever have in a Six Nations competition by 1 or 2 rankings. So yeah, good performance from the Italians. Decent from Scotland. Like, they didn't really do too much wrong other than just allow Italy too many tries. And I think that was also down to a little bit of disciplinary issues. I mean, we saw pretty much the first moment of the game that the Scottish gave away the penalty early on. But yeah, overall, entertaining first game of the Six Nations to build on what was going to come.
Yes, exactly. And I'm actually now looking at the table right here, and like you said, Italy really do have a shot of kind of getting their highest standing in a very long time because, of course, with that draw they had within round 2, I believe. Was it round 2 or round 3? It was round 3 they had against the French, and then, of course, round 4 beating the likes of Scotland. It really puts them in a good position, really, to kind of place even 4th, you could say, in this Six Nations, which is really impressive actually for Italy because they haven't finished that high in a very long time in terms of the rankings. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, like we'll cover this a lot more in terms of the preview for this week. But like with the likes of France and England facing off against each other, and Ireland, Scotland, one of these two teams are going to fall, I guess, and that kind of gives Italy the opportunity to kind of pounce on that. So we'll wait and see what happens, but we'll talk a lot more about that within the preview. But yeah, I do agree that in terms of that Italy-Scotland game, really just an action-packed game overall. I thought Tom Liner, of course, getting his debut for the Italians on that 14 spot, and yeah, he obviously got a try to his name as well, so a good debut for him. And yeah, I thought all the Italians had a good game. I thought Monticello, of course, the number 12, was really good. Again, had another really impressive game. He's looking like I said this on Twitter, but he's becoming like an early shout, you could say, for a young player of the year. You could say in terms of like is it called young player of the year? I forget if that's how it's called for rugby. Like it's called breakthrough. That's it, breakthrough player of the year. That's what he could be.
It's also not called Twitter anymore, is it?
Yes, I guess it's X in a way, but yeah, I think most people still see it as Twitter. But yeah, Breakthrough Player of the Year, he could be on to get that. So yeah, an early shout, but you never know. But yeah, like we said, a very impressive win by Italy to even hold on at the end there, because Scotland did have a chance, by the way, at the very end, like where they kind of went up the field. And to be completely honest, guys, I thought when Scotland got towards the halfway line, the player went on to the right, and I actually think his foot went into touch. I actually think they went into touch, but they continued on the play, and I was like, no, that can't be right. I was so surprised I didn't even look at that. I think it was just because it was just a quick, it's the last kind of play of the game, and they kind of just played on in a way. But I was like, I definitely thought it went into the touch. So I'm not sure if there's a picture out there that I can look at. Or obviously, it doesn't matter now because Italy have won the game. But if Scotland did win, that would be such a controversial thing to look back at, because I think the refereeing actually in that game, again, we don't like to talk about it as much, but like it was really like it was trying to go in Scotland's favor a lot of times, because there's a one moment at the end where like he was the who was the main referee for that game? It was Angus. Was it Barnes?
Angus Gardner, was it?
Angus Gardner, yeah. So Angus Gardner had a decision where it was like for the TMO, where he was gonna award a penalty for Scotland, but then I believe there was like the two silent referees were like urging him to give a yellow card on top of it, and he's like, guys, no, there's cover there. Then they told him to look at it again, and I was like, he's already made up his mind, but they're really asking for it, and I was like, okay, this is like he even sees it. The TMOs agrees, but it was only the two silent referees that wanted this yellow card. I was like, come on, just play with the game. Like it's not like. It kind of that may be a bit like I was like, oh, okay, this is something of an agenda in a way, but no. Anyway, the Italians won. That's the main thing. I'm very happy for the Italians. It was good to see obviously them get a victory at home. But yeah, again, we'll move on from that game towards the next shock of these Six Nations, which was definitely a shock of itself, because, like I said beforehand, a lot of people picked Ireland, including ourselves, to win that game. And again, for what I could be wrong in saying this, but because of the results, obviously the Italy-Scotland results, it actually meant that if Ireland got a bonus point victory, I believe, was it bonus point, or they just needed a victory? I think I'm not sure if it was. Maybe they just needed victory. I have to look at the points table, but they only need really a victory to claim the Six Nations one round before the end of the competitions, I believe. So they really had it in their hands. They could have grasped it, kind of just get the opportunity, but yeah, they just let it slip. And England, yeah, what more can I say? But they were really just a better team throughout the whole game, and that's saying something because they really just their attacking play was so good. Like normally you would say like, oh, the defensive work is what wins a game against Ireland in a way, but their attacking play was just off the charts. Like they utilized their wings so well in this game that it just put Ireland like into spaces throughout this whole game, and it just yeah, it was just great. It was great to watch actually because there's just so many much like running meters in this game. But yeah, just what was your thoughts on it? Because I thought it was just a great game to watch overall.
So Ireland, if they had won that, of course, would have secured the Six Nations. If they had got themselves 2 more tries, then they would have been in that scenario of still probably securing the Six Nations in terms of that points differential lead that they have alongside the overall points, seeing as that would have taken them up to 17. This was just a really good showcase of what England actually have got up their sleeve if they decide to use it. Like you mentioned, their attack was probably the best we have seen in a good few years at least in terms of the way that they were trying to crash towards that Irish line. Their defence overall was relatively sound. Like Ireland, I still felt had some good moments throughout this game. A few standout players, Josh Van and Flair, Bundy Arkey and James Lowe, the 3 notable ones who were still trying to get them back into the game, and they all but did. But in the end, England just managing to hang on, and it was none other than Marcus Smith, the Harlequins 10, made his way on the field. I'll be honest, George Ford, probably not his best game. His running game, I thought, was a lot better in terms of his distribution, but his kicking game, like the times that he was going for drop kicks, it just seemed really strange and kind of forced, as if to think, yeah, this is when I'd normally kick it, so I might as well try it again. And then in the end, Marcus Smith says, nah, mate, you just got to wait for the chance. And then boom, put it straight over, win the game. But yeah, overall, I mean, Ireland being within 7 was always going to be expected if they were defeated in this contest, just because they know how to score tries. It was the Grand Slam, of course, was the thing that was on everyone's mind. Now it's been taken away. Also, the perfect points for a Six Nations competition. But I still see them winning the Six Nations. I don't think there's going to be enough in the Scottish side unless something drastic changes. Because if they're conceding 31 points up against Italy, no offence to Italy as well by that statement, but if you're conceding 31 points up against the Italians, that means that if Ireland are firing and they're playing their natural game of rugby, like they're going to score those 30 points as well. The big difference, though, early on, we saw Jack Crowley actually taking on 3-pointers, which we don't normally see from the Irish. We normally see them going full guns blazing straight from the get-go, kick it for the corner, put the opposition under pressure, but maybe that was just a little bit of respect towards England in terms of the fact that they would get a few 3-pointers along the way, and perhaps they knew that they would need those extra points when available. But yeah, overall, like in terms of a day of the Six Nations, that was extremely hard to predict, and also both games going down to the wire. So it had you on the edge of your seat. It is exactly what we got, and it kind of revamped the hype around the Six Nations competition. I know that some people before this round felt like it was a done deal, that Ireland were going to win it, whether or not they got the Grand Slam, that was more of the question. But now, moving into next week, it's kind of a system of every single side can move their ranking. And that's exactly what we want to see. Italy versus Wales, that will be an important game. We could see Wales overtaking the Italians, or like we said, Italy progressing a bit further, seeing as France take on the English. Both of those sides still have a chance of just narrowly winning the Six Nations. Of course, points differential will come into it, but I believe they have another decider, don't they, in terms of, is it tries scored comes before points differential in the Six Nations? Is that what I saw?
I believe points differential is the first one that comes into thinking, because like even like when I'm looking at the table now, it's the first column that I can see. And when I'm looking at it, it seems that like Ireland, of course, are on 80. England's actually on -3. Scotland's on 4. France is on 4 as well, and then the rest are on minuses like heavy minuses. So it's one of those like where Ireland are clearly ahead in terms of that points difference, and that's not. I mean, if it gets to that situation, then they're obviously going to win that with ease. But it really comes down towards like when I'm looking now, and we'll talk a lot more about this obviously in the preview. But the only way I can see Ireland not winning this is that Scotland have to beat Ireland, and it's going to be one of those like where that's just a tough job to do, but also they have to do it with a bonus point. So they have to make sure Ireland get no point in at home, which is going to be. I mean, that is just, yeah. I mean, it's going to be tough to do that. I'm not sure, like you said, Scotland not showing the best of games, you could say, against the Italians, letting a ton of points go through the defense. And when you're facing like Ireland away, like it's I don't know. It's a bit of a, but again, we've seen shocks so far in the Six Nations, so you never know. Something could happen here, but it's going to be a long shot in my opinion. I do agree with you that Ireland's probably the team to kind of beat at the moment and still has the best chances of winning this Six Nations. Again, of course, if that were to happen, like I said, a hypothetical situation, if Scotland were to beat Ireland, then they obviously would go into they would go to what 16 points and draw with Ireland. But the thing is that no matter what, they wouldn't be able to go ahead of Ireland because of the whole points difference. So it would then really come down towards the other game, which is France versus England. And this is where that could decide a lot, because with these two nations, at least, they have, they actually have something to kind of play for here. Whereas it's really more for England, actually, because they have 12 points. So they actually have the more realistic chance of actually going ahead. But again, the problem is that they have to do the exact same thing as Scotland and get a bonus point victory away, which is it's a pretty difficult thing to do. So I mean, yeah, it's tough for both sides, and I think honestly, Scotland and England may be a bit outnumbered in that case. But again, we'll discuss that a lot more in the next episode. But yeah, again, going off then.
Just Googled as well, just to make sure that I did have it correct. So points difference is number 1, most tries is number 2. Yeah. Which means that my statement of 4 sides have a chance to win the Six Nations is pretty wrong, as it really is only the 2. So I'm sure I've already been destroyed in the comment section for that. So looking forward
You're all good.
to seeing those lovely messages.
Exactly. But yeah, again, with that final game, of course, that happened yesterday, which was Wales versus France. A very impressive win there by the French. Again, it was pretty close actually for most of the game. It was really like what 24, 25, like 20 in the 20 mark really for both sides up until like the 55th minutes. But then yeah, from there the French just kind of took off and added a few more penalties to the name, and then got Ramo Taflano, of course, blocked a box kick and just got a kind of an easy try to kind of get it, and then again they got another try at the very end in the 80th. So it just they just extended the lead even further. So yeah, it's one of those where I felt bad for the Welsh because they actually did put in a good performance, I'd say, in that first half. I thought they really kind of, I guess, challenged the French in a lot of areas. I mean, that Rio Dyer having a good game as well, I see, scoring a try. And then with the French as well, they had some good moments. Even that second try I thought for Williams was actually really nice, was nicely worked through the inside channel. Well, yeah, it was through the inside channel towards Williams. But yeah, I mean, what was your thoughts on that one? Because I think this, again, like we said, we actually did. I think we both said actually Wales we wanted Wales to win this one. Actually, funny enough, but of course, the French did come up trumps. So, what was your perspective on this one?
Well, wanted Wales to win and thought that Wales would win are, of course, two very different things.
Yeah.
But the French second half, they just dominated. Really, in the first half they had their moments. Wales, like you mentioned, were really attacking just next to the breakdown. And then second half, they just seemed to run out of juice. They weren't quite able to hang with the French in that second 40. And I have to say, Legaric, he's going to be a future star, I believe. This was only his 4th cap and his first start for France. And he kind of, compared to Maxime Lucu, it was pretty much black and white. Like, he did extremely well. Yeah. The other guys on debut in the backline, not so much. I didn't really see a huge amount of the other 2 youngsters, but maybe time will come for them. Thomas Ramos at 10, I actually thought worked pretty well for the French, so that is a bonus, but he's just such a talented player that you can put him anywhere, and he's still going to find success. But yeah, overall, I think it was a real good team effort from the French. They seemed to all step up. Frustrations in that first half, of course, with how close the game was. They felt like they should have been winning it, and they went out there and did something about it in the second half and walked away with the comfortable victory, but still can't win the Six Nations because maths is a thing.
Exactly. But yeah, it was good to see though some kind of like tactical plays because again, I forgot to mention this for the England Ireland game, but I was impressed how with that one for England they selected three locks actually to kind of compete against the likes of Tag Vernon, I believe McCarthy. Was it McCarthy who started it or was it Ryan? I forgot for that one. It was McCarthy, right? Yeah, so it was just a good tactic for that one. And as then we saw a similar thing, obviously, within this game for Wales and France, where they brought back Thomas Vermaelen, who, of course, he's playing his first game for France. And that was good to see him actually back in because he is just a key difference maker. And with him and Taflawena in that kind of locking pairing it's good to see. Because I think was it originally Taflawena who did he start the whole game, Taflawena? I don't believe because it was someone else. That's what I remember. There was someone else. He came on for someone. Can you remember? I can't remember the player's name. It wasn't
Oh,
Walkie
you
because
can
he's
do
obviously
it,
gone
Tim.
off.
You can do it. Cameron
Walkie's
Walkie
gone
was
off.
not there. He's a big
Uh,
man. Big
Williams though?
boy. No,
No,
big
because
boy
he's
who's not
yeah,
suspended.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to think. Like who else is there in terms of the French? There's Tung Langi's gone away as well. Give me a hint. Give me a hint
I'm
here.
going to try and give you the best hint that I can in terms
Okay, okay.
of. I want to make sure I got the spelling right. Right. He's got.
Okay.
What's the best way? There's actually a really hard name to give a hint for. Like,
Oh,
there's
okay.
no real.
No,
Like,
because that's the thing is
his first
I
name
have
is Emmanuel. So, there's a
Emmanuel.
good hint.
Emmanuel. Is it sort of a G? Like the
No.
it's like it's a weird. It's a lot. I know who the player is by the way. It's just that I don't know how to. What is it like? His last name is like it's like
His last name is Miafu.
Mifu. Oh, okay. I did not know him. Okay, maybe I'm wrong in that sense. I thought.
You'll know him if you saw him. He's a big bloke.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was
Okay.
actually quite evident for them. But Flemont as well did extremely well throughout that game.
Mifu.
But
Is
you want me
he?
to send you a picture of him?
He plays. Wait. Am I wrong? Because
he
he
was there.
no, but yeah, but like he's not actually like he. Am I wrong in saying he's not actually like French? He's one of those players that was like born in like Samoa or like even like New Zealand or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
am I wrong in
Raised
saying
in
that? That's the guy.
Australia. Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
Australian big boy.
I remember the guy. Yeah, because yeah. Okay. I haven't seen him play in a while, so that kind of I don't kind of remember him who he was. But yeah. Okay. Cool. I mean, again, I wasn't able to. I didn't recognize him
You
too
can
much
see
from
why
the
I wasn't
game.
very good at giving hints though. Like
Yeah.
that'll
Yeah.
be a hint
Exactly.
Miafu. Like there's not
I didn't get the
really
recognize
any.
him as much, but and again, yeah, I mean that's kind of it really with the Six Nations guys in terms of within round four. Again, we'll also talk a lot more about round five in the preview this week in the next coming days. So obviously just come back towards the channel for that one. But again, go off across then towards Super Rugby, which did see, which was of course round three finishing off. The results we had, of course. Let me just quickly get it up here for you guys. There's actually a lot of upsets in this one as well. In terms of Super Rugby as well, this is a big week for upsets. But the first one, of course, we did have Modern Pacific versus the Rebels, which finished 23 points to 29. Waratahs Highlanders 21 to 23 to Highlanders. Fijian Dura beat the Crusaders 2010. Brumbies beat the Force 22-19. Hurricanes beat the Blues 29-21. And the Reds beat the Chiefs 25-19. So yeah, some pretty big wins there actually for I'd say a lot of the Australian sides actually. But also some good wins there for the New Zealand sides and also for Fijian Dura, of course. But yeah, again, we'll start off with that Modern Pacifica versus Rebels game. I did kind of live stream this one, so I thought I got to see the whole game for this one. But did you get a chance to see this, or was it just you see the
I
highlights?
managed to squeeze it in. Of course, I was out and
Nice.
about for
Yeah.
the actual match, but I managed to watch it a little bit later on. And it's once again Super Rugby this year. Games can go either way, can't they? Like the
Yeah.
fact that upsets have been happening, like that's great. But the fact that the favourites and the underdogs are pretty much even when we get to those final 10 or so minutes, like it's extremely impressive how close this competition could actually end up being. Like Moana Pacifica, they easily could have won that game if they just got one more thing right. The Rebels, though, starting to look real good. They're actually a side that people weren't sure if they were going to come out firing this year or whether they were just going to kind of go, oh, we're leaving anyway, so we might as well just,
Yeah.
just play for the sake of playing. But no, they want to win. And imagine if they did, what does that do? It might get 10 people to their games, but hopefully it gets them a little bit more funding. and they just get to stay in the comp. But then saying that, there's so many rumours, Tim, all about the
There
Super
is.
Rugby competition
Yeah,
at the moment in terms of what teams could be heading in, heading out. But in the end, the Rebels winning it by 6, which was the kind of common-ish number. Like there were a lot of games that were below 10. In fact, the biggest win was Fiji and Drua when they
exactly.
won up against the Crusaders. Other than that,
Yeah.
every other game was split by 7 or less, other than, sorry, the Blues Hurricanes. Sorry, mate.
That was
But
8. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So they missed out on that bonus point, didn't they?
Indeed, that. We'll get into that, but I know for this Mono Pacifica, what did I say? Hurricanes, Mono Pacifica Rebels game. Of course, the big thing that came out of that one is Julian Sevilla breaking the all-time Super Rugby try scoring record, passing Israel Folau, who was at 60 and getting 61 tries to his name, which is very impressive, obviously for Julian Sevilla because the bus he's been good throughout Super Rugby and he is just it's kind of cool to see him do it because again we kind of it was going to eventually happen, so I'm kind of happy that I saw the game that he did it in. But again, he's just an excellent player to watch, and obviously it's great to have someone like him in Mono Pacifica replacing the likes of Levi Moore, who of course left. So it's a good kind of player transfer there that's kind of turned out pretty good for them so far. Because again, like you said, Mono Pacifica, they actually could have won this game. They actually had it. They actually played some good footy in this one. I thought William Avili, his kicking was like on point. Like if you saw some of his kicks in this game, I was like, oh my gosh. He even did like the whole Dan Carter thing, like where you like he goes in and then comes back into the post. Like it's like a little twirl away. But no, it was really good to see him kind of kicking weird. I know it's a weird thing to talk about, but it's awesome to see good kicking. I know there was an Incy again had another good impressive game there for an EC. I mean, you had a good game there for Mono Pacifica. But yeah, the Rebels just really did well. Kellaway getting another try to his name. Lokinsai Kaloto again being a beast in terms of locks. He was really good. And yeah, just a good win for them really because I believe did they get the bonus point in this one? I don't believe they did. I think Mono Pacifica
No.
stopped them.
A little bit different in Super
Yeah, because
Rugby
they
compared to Six Nations, 3 or more tries.
exactly. And this is the thing where with Mono Pacifica, actually, funny enough, they did what the Blues did do and actually kicked the final penalty, I believe, to get the losing bonus point in this one. So that was obviously good from there because they definitely deserved that at least. So I was happy they got that one. But again, moving on in for the second that day, which was Warthogs versus Highlanders. Again, 23 points to 21 in favor of the Highlanders. This was a very tight game. I thought this was probably one of the tighter games we saw throughout this whole round. Again, Highlanders did well. Was it the Highlanders who did well early on? They did because they got a try within I think the opening 3 minutes of this game, which is kind of it was a shock to me, but I think it was Flafak Tava who kind of found an opening towards it wasn't Reese Patchell, it was I think Nemkins, if I'm not mistaken, who broke the line, and then he had an easy pass towards Patchell, who then scored the try for himself, again making an impact in the game. But again, the Warthogs did it. They just struck back immediately through I believe Israel Parisi and kind of leveled the scoreline in that way. But from there, it kind of was a cagey match, a few penalties in and outs, and I'm not sure there another try. I believe there might have been one more try for both sides, if you can remember.
Yeah, I think they both came pretty much straight after each other, didn't they? Tanelo
yeah,
Talia managed to score in about the 68th,
that's it. Yeah,
was it? And then about 65th minute, I think the Waratahs actually crossed the try line as well.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it was just back and forth, and there were quite a few errors throughout that
There
second
was.
half. We were actually sitting watching it with the fam, and the first game of Super Rugby my uncle watched, and it was almost the last of the season. I was like, don't worry, they're not all like this. There's going to be, we'll see some running rugby as well without the knock-ons involved. But the Highlanders did what they needed to win, got themselves that narrow victory, and, they're building into their season quite nicely at the moment. I feel like even in their defeats, they've looked good. They've looked better than they have in the past, and there's a lot more to come, I think, for the Highlanders.
Exactly. That's kind of exactly what I was going to say. But again, we'll move on away from this game. We do have the likes of Fiji Endura versus Crusaders. Again, a mouth-watering one to watch. Both these sides played some good. I actually think both played some good rugby in this. I think the Crusaders actually, in a weird way, actually played better than what I saw last week against the Warthogs. Because they were a lot more clinical, I guess, in terms of the breakdown. I thought that was the one thing they did pretty well in this game, stopping the Fiji Endura from a lot of times at their lines. So from a defensive point of view, they actually did pretty well. But again, the Fijian Duro just outclassed them, and it was just one of those where it came down obviously towards kicking, but I think Franklin Marnie I thought was brilliant without this game. Really just really dictated the game throughout most parts of it. And then of course we saw Kuro Kurovoli come in again, getting his debut. Well, not his debut, but his return into Super Rugby, which was a good thing to see. Just overall a really impressive game. I thought Masi was pretty good throughout this one, even like Ratumala. I'm trying to think if anyone else was good. Can you think of anyone else in this game that impressed you?
See, that's the thing. Like, there were a lot of solid performances, I think, throughout this fixture, and a lot of like the guys out there on the field. Like, you could tell that they were trying their best to get something going at times, but the tries just weren't quite flowing. Like, normally when it's a game in Fiji, you see try after try after try. We've seen that when Moana Pacifica have played the Fijian draw. But I think my biggest concern at the moment for the Fijian draw is, can they do it away from home? We know that they can win games in Fiji.
Exactly.
Is that going to be enough to get them in the top 8? Maybe. But then what happens when they have to go up against a side away from home in their quarterfinal? Like, I would like to see them start making momentum on the road as well as their home games. Crusaders, they are 3 from 3 losses.
It's crazy.
Not what they will want. They're going into the game next week up against the Hurricanes. That's going to be a good one because, fun fact, the Hurricanes are playing pretty well at the moment.
They could go 5-0, by the way.
Yeah.
They could go 5-0 because they play the Blues the following week as well away, if I'm not mistaken. That's like
there's a big chance for the Crusaders, and then I think even after that they go back to the Chiefs for round 6. So it doesn't actually get very easy for them. And then they have the Waratahs in their next game after that. So she's not fun to be a Crusaders fan. I think week 9's their best bet. That is going to be up against the Western Force. That will be a great chance, but it's always going to be tricky. And like my uncle said, he's a Crusader supporter through and through. He said there's going to be times when there are struggles for a team, definitely when you've got so many changes.
Jeez.
But yeah, it's going to become one of those scenarios, though, that even if the Crusaders just make the top 8, there's still a danger. And you can't quite write them off in playoff rugby. I don't care who they've got in their starting lineup in reserves. When you put that name and that jersey on for the Crusaders,
they turn
when it's playoff rugby, they just seem to hit that next level.
Yeah.
So, I'd still keep a close eye on them, even though they could be, like you said, about 0-8 or 0-6 or 0-5. There's still going to be time for them to come back into it. But, overall, good game for the Fijian draw, giving the crowd a little bit of something to cheer about as well. And, we'll see next week. See how they bounce back, the Crusaders up against the Canes, and then the Drua have actually got the Chiefs in Waikato. So that's not going to be easy, but then Chiefs coming off a loss. So who knows? Super Rugby. Boom fun.
It's going to be interesting because, like, I do agree with you, by the way, on both points because I mentioned both of them actually on my stream as well, like with Fijian Dura, like where they have to really, if they want to do something this year, they really have to work on making sure they win more games away than at home. And that's really something they come down to because, like you said, when they faced the Crusaders last year in the quarterfinals, they really had no answer, of course. But again, they got to that stage because of the wins they had at home. But they need to win more games away to kind of get used to the idea of winning away. And again, the only way they don't have to go through that is that Fiji have a really good season, and finish in the top 4. And if they get that 4th place position, then that would be interesting. But the problem is that they have so much competition there because you have the likes of the Chiefs, the Brumbies, you have the Hurricanes, of course, you have the Blues. Like I say, like those 4 are probably, I'd say, ahead of them. So to knock one of them off that position would be pretty tough. Again, you never know. Obviously, results can maybe go into their way, but it's going to be a tough one to see if they can actually do it or not. But like you said, for the Crusaders, they're going to have a long season ahead because I didn't even recognize they actually put the Chiefs even after that Blues game. I was making the comment where they may even lose at 5, but they could actually honestly lose 6. And even that Waratahs one, they play away. So it's like, that's going to be interesting. But again, they've played the Force after our season. That could be their first one. You never know. But we'll see how it goes. But again, moving on towards the next one, which of course was the likes of Brumbies versus Force. Again, this is a quick one we can kind of run over very quickly because Force, again, They did pretty well. Again, obviously, you kind of saw the tries early on. I didn't actually split that from them. I was looking at my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually ahead of this, and they're actually by some margin. But of course, the Brumbies came back into this game and just scraped away with a win with 22 points to 19. So yeah, just a good win for them overall. Again, not really any kind of big plays in this. I think just really just more good work. Obviously, just to kind of get the win there. But do you want to make any points on that one, or do you want to just kind
of didn't watch the game? So
yeah, exactly. This is one of the. I mean, out of all the games, this is the one that where we can kind of just we can fly by quickly through. But because again, this is the one where I'm definitely gonna have the most words for with Hurricanes versus Blues, which is the first game on the Saturday. I was going to say Sunday, but the Saturday, and it was one of those where. Well, it was Saturday, right?
After the other.
Oh, after Fiji. Yeah, sorry. After the 2 games beforehand. Never mind. There was a lot of games on Saturday, but the third game that happened on the Saturday, which was Hurricanes versus Blues. Again, this is one of those where the Hurricanes, they really just did dominate that first half. Like, they were just a better team throughout it, but also the Blues just whenever they because the Blues they had 2 chances early on, like where one they just kind of knocked on the ball at the line, which is obviously their fault, and then there was one which I believe the Hurricanes won for the breakdown. I believe for Peter Laka, he was having a great season for them so far. So yeah, from a defensive point of view, the Hurricanes were just really good throughout that opening half, and the Blues just were missing their chances and really weren't clinical at all. And I think the Hurricanes scored 2 tries, if I'm not mistaken, in that first half. It was literally an identical try to Josh Mobley at the end, literally on the right-hand corner. Ruben Love, again, he got 3 assists in this game, by the way. And I want to mention him because he's a topic. I think he's a player that he's making a name for himself this year and could be in the conversation for the All Blacks.
Say he's going to move.
He could be in the conversation. That's the key word there. Could be. But again, it comes down obviously towards consistency for the whole year. But hey, he's done very well so far. But no, with the Hurricanes, of course, doing very well. I mean, that March-Light intercept try was just, I to be honest, that was just very lucky. We didn't really deserve that going into that first half because I was like, wow, we're actually in this, which is actually a surprising thing because the Hurricanes just were the better team. But of course, in the second half, this is where the Hurricanes they just turned it up another level. They were just absolutely insane. And there was only one man I could speak about who just tore the Blues apart. And that was Nahalo. He was just I just hated watching it. It just reminded me of like Lester Fananku back in the day of like going against the Crusaders against the Blues all the times, where he would just break through tackles. I think he broke through 6 tackles, if I'm not mistaken, to get that try towards Higgins. Like I was like, can anyone tackle Nahalo? I was like, it was so frustrating. I was like, geez, it's just it was tough to watch that one. But yeah, before I ramble on, what was your kind of thoughts on this game? Because I could go on forever for this one.
Well, the comment about can anyone tackle Naholo, that is exactly what people felt when Mark Talia was stepping through them. And I didn't hear you complaining there, Tim. I think you were pretty happy about Talia being able to break through. Like he always slips through about 3 tackles in a row, although this season's been a little bit different.
This is where like
down early.
You're right. To be fair, Martinelli has been doing that for the whole season last year. But this is where like the whole I just thought was like doing against the Blues though it hurts more. Like you can do it. Like I don't mind Martinelli doing it against the other teams because he's on my team anyways. That's also the scene. But the Hollow, I was just like, oh, it just killed me. It just killed me. But again, of course, in that final moment, we had, of course, what was it? The Hurricanes extended the lead, the 29 points, and it kind of meant that the Blues, no matter what, we're going to lose that game. But again, we actually had a penalty minute fulfilled, and I was like, okay, we could actually get something from this. You know, we could go. They had a penalty. They can go for the corner and go for the try, which is what I said in my stream. Go for the try because you can at least get another advantage if needed. But then no, they decided to go for the kick, and unfortunately for me, a lot of my comments on the live stream, on the live chat, were ahead of me. So they said, "Yeah, he's missed the kick." By the way, I was like, "No," I was like, "No, you guys, you're joking to me. You're joking." And then like, Tim, I wish. And I was like, "Oh, I was like, geez, what a game then for the Blues to miss an opportunity like that." But yeah, look, it's just a tough one to take. But anyway, we'll swiftly move. Oh yeah,
no, we're not swiftly moving on, Tim. We're staying on this game. I'm going to make you talk about it for a little bit longer. Do you think that this game exposed the fact that when the Blues are under pressure, their discipline starts to fold?
Yes, but actually, funnily enough, this is one of the there wasn't a yellow card in this game though, right? There wasn't,
No,
was there?
but there were a lot of penalties in that
Yeah,
middle
there were. There
patch where
were a
they
lot of
needed to
penalties,
take that
but
momentum.
yes, and there were a lot of handling errors in this game as well. I think that's also what cost the Blues. I think that's actually what cost the Blues more in this game was the handling errors because they just gave easy possession back towards the Hurricanes. But again, the Hurricanes were very good within the breakdowns, so it's like a mix of both, really. But yeah, it's a tough one to take because again, to be fair, I mean, people obviously don't think about this, but the Blues lost 2 players in the first 5 minutes of the game. Like we lost AJ Lamb and Funaki, who's normally our scrum half, had to play as a winger for the full game. And then you had one of our props down, Lay, I believe, who injured himself in the first. Well, he actually came on in the second half, and he injured himself, and he was out. And then we did another player in the opening five who we lost as well. I can't remember who it was, but it was all these little things that came into it, and then the whole idea of the 2-2 coming off the bench, and it was like, was that the right decision when you look back at it now? But I don't know. It's yeah, the Blues are just all over the place. They're from an attacking sense. Like I didn't think Marchley actually had a good game. I actually didn't think he was. He wasn't able to kind of break through the defense as he normally does in a way. It was just a shield really from the Hurricanes, and they did well to obviously stop him in every kind of chance they had. So yeah, really good game for the Hurricanes, of course, and that does lead them now top of the table with 3 wins, the only team to still have a 100% record. And with the Blues now, they have what 2-1, of course. So I mean, if I look at the table, I think they're fourth or fifth, something like that. Fifth, yeah, they're fifth of the table right now. So again, it's one of those like where this is obviously the first 3 games, but it's a good 3 games. I think is a good enough indication of how the teams may go on for the rest of the season. So it's interesting to see
Oh, I
where
don't
every.
know about that, Tim. The
You
Rebels
don't
are
think?
fourth.
I think the Rebels have done well so far. I mean,
Yeah, they've
again, it
done
comes down
well,
maybe
but
towards
are
the
they going to
opposition.
stay fourth? Are they going to have a
You
home
never know. You
quarterfinal?
never know. You never know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the Rebels, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because again, I'm also hoping the Crusaders, they just continue their rut there. But sorry, Crusader fans. I'm a passionate Blues fan here, and in a weird way, it was great to see at least that happen. You guys listened to Fiji Endure before us listening to the Hurricanes, so it didn't even my day out, but it was like the silver lining in a way. But yeah, again, going off towards that final game, again, not much really within this one in terms of the Reds and Chiefs. I mean, this was one of those games where it was a very like close game between, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Like where it was like I think honestly in this game, I said the Chiefs would run away with it. I think this is probably this game and the Brumbies game I did say in our preview. Well, I thought we're going to be like a large scoreline for the Chiefs in terms of the margin, but no, the Reds they were really good throughout this one. And yeah, I mean, Josh Fluke getting another try to his name. He's having a really good season so far, the Reds. And again, I actually had this conversation in my live chat about who would be the back 3 for the Wallabies, and he's up there now. I actually think he's up there in the conversation. I think like you could probably say like you have Core Betty, Corey Toole, Kellaway, like I don't know, Tom Wright, because he's always kind of there because he's just a very consistent player. You have Josh Fluke now. You have Vinavali, you can maybe say. There's a lot of good players out there, man. You can even say what's his name? Filipe Dongadu. But again, I know he's Filipe Dongadu, but I know he's been playing center. But you can play winger if needed. So I'm not sure how that would work. But no, the Reds just are very impressive for this one. But again, I didn't cover this one because I know you obviously covered this in your live stream. So what was your kind of thoughts on the overall game?
Well, I think that the Reds made the Chiefs very uncomfortable and made
Yeah,
them make a lot of errors that they
errors. Yeah,
normally wouldn't. And I think that this Chiefs side almost looked uncharacteristic compared to what we've seen in their first 2 games, where they've seemed composed, they seemed cool, calm, and collected. But something just wasn't quite working for them. And when you do constantly drop that ball and constantly make those little mistakes, like some sides find it easy to get back into the flow of things and other sides struggle. And it seems like the Chiefs, they could be a side that struggle. I don't think this is going to be a regular occurrence. I think that this was probably a one-off game that they went, okay, well, we got that very wrong.
yeah,
And it also just showed the class of the Reds, the fact that they didn't have Hunter Paisami and they also didn't have Jordan Pataya, but
yep.
they can still beat New Zealand sides with the changes. We didn't see a huge amount of Isaac Henry in the end. We saw a couple
Yeah.
decent runs from him,
Yeah.
but overall pretty quiet. As the Reds were also a team that, even though they played quite well, they still had a few errors along the way as well. But yeah, overall, a good way
Yeah.
to end Super Rugby's round. Another underdog getting themselves the victory. I believe it was about 4 out of 6 of the underdogs pulled off
It's
the
impressive.
victories.
Yeah.
And yeah, it certainly ruined a lot of people's TAB multis. I'm sure there were a lot of people backing
Exactly.
favourites
Yeah.
that
The
then
whole.
did not
Yeah.
get paid. But it'll be interesting for the next round. Chiefs, they have got the Fijian draw, like we mentioned, the Reds. Their next contest, I believe, I'll
The
just check.
Rebels.
Yeah, they are playing the
They'll be
Rebels.
good. They'll be
See
good.
whether or not the Rebels keep their spot in fourth or whether they do drop with the Reds, who are currently in third. So that's
I think
going
the
to be a
Rebel. I
decent
actually
game.
think okay. This is obviously early saying this. I think the Rebels could win that. I think the Rebels could win that. You don't know, but again, like you said, by the way, I did want to mention Fraser McWright for that last game because he was unbelievable in kind of stopping the Chiefs in that final play because I think Chiefs had they were up in the tens. I think 15 phases, I believe, in that final play before they obviously got before he turned it over. So yeah, just good defensive work there by the Reds, and just it's a good sign because that's what this is kind of. He's normally seen as more of an attacking coach for what he's kind of brought towards the Reds, the Queensland Reds. But again, from a defensive point of view, they've looked pretty strong. So that's something to kind of look out for going forward. But yeah, that's kind of it, guys. With Super Rugby round 3 done, as well as the Six Nations round 4. Again, we've had some this has really been a week of upsets, which is great to see. Hopefully that continues. You never know. We can maybe see a few more upsets next week, but it's going to be hard to come by. Let's just say that it'll be very hard to come by, particularly in the Six Nations. But hey, if it's going to happen, this would definitely be the bigger upsets of the whole competition for that. That's 100% sure. But we'll wait and see what happens. But like I said, guys, make sure obviously to like the video. Would greatly appreciate that. Check out our respective channels, the Rugby Itch, Kiwi Lads, and then again, make sure obviously to comment below as well. Let us know your thoughts on the Six Nations, the round that we just saw, as well as Super Rugby. Like which player impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments. But yeah, besides that, guys, before we head off, I have to quickly just mention that in terms of our Super Rugby predictions, because I almost forgot. Kiwi has an update. Hamish is now on 15 out of 18, and I'm on 13 out of 18. So he got one ahead of me in this round because I believe I only predicted 3 out of 6, whereas you predicted 4 out of 6. So pretty impressive stuff. Pretty impressive. But anyway, we'll leave it there, guys. We'll leave it there. And yeah, see you guys next time. Perfect. Cool.